Welcome to Series 2, Episode 8. Meet Jonathan Straight, the creative entrepreneur. He's also a non-exec director, a consultant, a TV star, a photographer. The list goes on. We get to know Jonathan's story, along with exploring his spiritualism and religion. You can't help but be inspired by Jonathan. Enjoy the episode. Thanks for being a fab listener. Welcome to the Johnny Ross audio experience. I'm Johnny Ross, founder and digital marketing strategist of Fleek Marketing. Each podcast I'll be bringing you an expert to inspire you, to give you some great business growth takeaways, and to get you thinking about marketing and the bigger picture of how businesses can improve, adapt and grow. I look forward to sharing this with you on each podcast, so here we go. Hi, welcome to another live Q&A. Today we've got Jonathan Straight, a creative entrepreneur. It's brilliant to have you here, Jonathan. How are you?
I'm good. Good morning. Nice to be with you.
It's great that you're here. Thank you. So we're live on Facebook. We're live on LinkedIn. We're live on YouTube. We have a Facebook group, the Coronavirus Yorkshire Business Support Group. If you're watching this on replay, then just put a hashtag replay in the comments. That would be really helpful to understand. And if you've got questions for Jonathan, feel free to pop them in the comments box, and I will see if I can introduce them as we chat. But it's great to have you here, Jonathan. And actually, I just wanted to sort of go right back. You were born in Leeds. How did you your big career? Some of your big career moments were selling bins and water butts. Just talk me to some of the lead up to that.
So I was born in Leeds. I was born in my late grandmother's bedroom in Chapeltown, because
home birth.
There was no way she was having her daughter-in-law give birth in a hospital. So that is where I came into the world, on St Martin's Crescent. And
Wow.
I did all sorts of things. I mean, I wasn't particularly enamored with education. I didn't go to university, dropped out, sort of played music, stayed up late, that kind of thing. And eventually I sort of fell into doing all sorts of salesy and marketing things. I had my own little enterprise right at the beginning. Selling, buying, selling, producing a newsletter for people who wanted to start businesses. Also, all sorts of crazy ideas, lots of ideas. Selling books by post. I actually did that years and years ago. Gave it up as a bad job. Eventually, I started doing what you might call proper work as a consultant, and I did a lot of work for a fitted bedroom company called Strachan, and I learned the black art of direct marketing there. I learned all about call centers and coupon response, and I did a lot of transformational work for them. And then I was headhunted by a parent of a school friend who had a factory making suits and jackets, and I worked there for a few months. It didn't quite work out, so I was out on my ear. I had a few quid. I had lots of skills. Sales skills, marketing skills, business skills. I wanted to give something back. I knew I could make money. I knew that was a given. But I wanted there to be some sort of, how should we say, tangible benefit, social, environmental twist to what I was doing. And I discovered this thing called recycling, or rather not recycling, because at that point, we really weren't doing very much of it. And I started volunteering at a little company called Save, Waste and Prosper. And the fools put me in charge of their cash flow and their accounts. So within 2 weeks, I was an indispensable team member, and they had to start paying me. And then they gave me a project, which was with a plastics manufacturer who had designed a bin. And I ended up doing some consultancy for this plastics manufacturer. And then I moved over full time as a consultant to them. And then in 1993, they said, we've had enough of this project. We don't want to do it anymore. And I said, well, let me carry on. And they said, absolutely not. There's no way, off you go. But I persuaded them after quite a long negotiation that I could be their agent. And that was the beginning of what became Straight PLC. Me, a desk, a phone, a laptop, and an agency for 3 products that were selling at that time about 100 grams worth of sales a year. And that was the beginning. And I built from there, in 10 years, a public company. And in 20 years, a public company that had a factory, an office, 150 staff, 30 million turnover, agents all over the world. So it was quite an adventure, and I've written it all down. It just needs a bit of editing. If anybody knows a good editor, I'm open to offers. But yeah, that's ready to go. 90 odd thousand words of it.
Wow. John Hammond says hello. I'm sure that mustache is getting longer.
Well, my hair's definitely getting longer. I haven't had it cut for 7 months.
You're sort of on full lockdown, aren't you? Still?
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying my best. Obviously, the weak link is the kids are at school, but
yeah.
I'm being careful. Should we say?
He's put give regards to the good doctor.
Thank you very much, John. Very kind. John's involved with University of York St John, who kindly gave me a doctorate last year. So I am now Dr. Straight.
Oh, I saw your speech.
Did you?
I did. Yes.
Did you like my frock?
I did like your frock. You knew it had been recorded, but it was only recently you found it. Yeah.
I had no idea it had been posted. It's actually on YouTube. It's worth a look. And I wore the hat.
I saw.
You see, my fellow honoree was Hugh Edwards, the newsreader, and he refused to wear the hat.
Did he?
I don't know why, but he didn't wear the hat. I thought it was rather fetching, so I was quite glad to have it. And it was pretty cold in the Minster, so it was actually not bad to have a hat on your head.
You said just when you were telling me your story just then, you said that you knew you would make money, and you also wanted some sort of tangible part of this. How did you know you'd make money? What is it?
Well, no, I knew I could make money because
sorry, I meant the word could.
In my roles as a consultant, I was being paid to run a call center, to run an appointment system, to produce sales promotion material, whatever it was I was doing, and I was earning good money. I was in my sort of late 20s by the time this happened, but I was earning a lot of money. I was paid by the hour, and I had a commission structure based on what my team was doing, and I used to work 60-70 hours a week, so I was earning loads of money plus all the commission. So yeah, I knew I could do that. I didn't know I could make a lot of money. I never had any expectation to make a lot of money, but as has been borne out through the story, I did do quite well. And
what got you to where you were? Was it a confidence thing? Was it just luck? Was it what would you say the key elements were?
Well, I would say if I look back at sort of 21 years in business, you've got 10 years of fear and terror. Of that, this is going to stop happening. This is going to fail. I've done quite well for a bit, but I'm going to end up with nothing. There was this sort of, motivation of absolute fear, which was a big driver. And at one point I was in the office 7 days a week. I just couldn't leave it alone. Then when we floated on the stock market, after a while, the penny dropped. That this is actually quite a significant structure, and it's not just going to evaporate, and you've got a team of good people around you who are doing most of the doing. So actually maybe you can take a slightly different view, and I would say my motivation then changed to one of responsibility and duty, because I had all these people who looked to me to make sure they could feed their families. So it sort of, there was a change. There was a first half and a second half. Fear in the first half and duty in the second half.
And I mean, since then, you have your fingers in many different pies. I just do not know where you get the time. You're also a doer as well. You like to do things yourself. You like to try new things. You're an early adopter of tech. But if you're not a photographer, you're doing TV. If you're not doing TV, you're a trustee. You're a director at the telly. You're helping other businesses. You're a vegan. You're a pro-Israeli. There's so many things. How do you fit it all in?
Well, I think the truth is it's all compartmentalized. So, if you're a trustee of a charity, and I'm a trustee of, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 charities. It's probably 6.
Probably.
You really have your board meetings where you need to read the papers, bring yourself up to speed, and then you might come away with an action point or 2, but once that's done, you can leave it because you've got a professional team who are running the charity, and unless they've got a problem or an issue, and of course they've all had problems and issues in the last months, you can really leave it alone, and so it becomes a reactive thing rather than a proactive thing. So it doesn't actually take up as much time as you might imagine to be a trustee of a charity, assuming it's a professionally run and decent organisation. And the Techly is a prime example, a very good example, where the professional team pretty much does everything and will come to the board and say, this is what we think, this is what we want to do. Do you agree or don't you agree? And we will either say, great idea, do it, or actually, it's possibly a bit reckless, maybe don't spend all that money now because you don't know what's around the corner, that kind of thing. So it's possible to compartmentalize it. With photography, with television, they're projects. So, if as I did a couple of years back, you've got a TV series to make, you'll have a phase of research, a phase of writing, and then you'll spread out the filming over probably a day or 2 a week for a couple of months. And that will involve line learning because we're not rich enough for auto cues at Leeds TV, or at least they weren't when I was there. So you've got to learn your lines and then do the filming in the freezing cold with 3 pairs of socks on, and then just hope that whoever's editing it lives up to the vision you had when you wrote it. But once it's done, and you don't have to worry about it or think about it again. Same with photography. You'll go somewhere to do a shoot, then it needs editing and publishing. Sometimes I make books. A book is a process of handing over to a designer. Obviously, I need to give the designer the layout, I need to give the designer the text, and then there's a process of toing and froing where it will come back in iterations and I'll make comments and send it. So it's not a constant thing. It involves bits of time spread out over a longer time. So it's not too difficult to manage.
Is it? Do you sort of are you the sort of person that needs that needs lots of different things to keep it exciting or to keep it varied? Is it the varied thing that gets you?
Well, I think I probably have a short attention span. I need to be kept excited, and I have what I would call magpie syndrome, which is oh, there's something shiny over there. Let's go and get it. And you know what happens every day I clip stuff. There's all sorts of stuff. Oh, I like that. Look at that article. That article looks good. And I clip it all to Evernote, and I never find time to read it. So I've got a repository of thousands of interesting articles, which once in a while, oh, do you know I should sit down and read some of that? And you might read 3 or 4 articles. That's as far as you get, because some of them are books. Some of them are ebooks. Some of them are hundreds of pages long. There's no hope. But you feel if you don't clip it, you've missed something. You've missed out.
But I guess that magpie syndrome actually opens doors. You just don't know what might be there. It might waste some time as well, but at the same time, it might open opportunities, I assume.
I think one of the greatest gifts to humanity is intellectual curiosity, and people who don't have it or suppress it. I just feel sorry for. It's such a wonderful thing to. There's so much out there. There's so much that can excite us and interest us. It's just amazing, and to be open-minded and curious, and to have a principle that if somebody says, I'm interested to talk to you, you are going to find the time to talk to them, because you're going to learn something. Maybe they are the bigger beneficiary of the relationship. It doesn't matter. You're always going to come away with something you didn't know before, and that's worth having.
Yeah, and I know just from doing these sessions, the part I love and enjoy is learning, actually, and hearing from other people, and it challenges me and makes me think about things. So I get that completely. You mentioned the books. I definitely want to talk about your book. You've got a book out right now, and you're potentially working on a new one as well. I'm going to come back to that shortly. But you're also quite a spiritualist. We've got the Jewish New Year coming up this weekend. Brian Planer saying Shana Tova to both of us.
Shana Tova, Brian. That's very kind of you.
But one of the things that I wanted to ask you, because you are a regular attendee at synagogues, this is going to be very strange with some big high festivals coming up, and with COVID. How's that going to feel over the next few days and weeks?
I'm not concerned for me. I'm possibly concerned for the rest of the family, because that connection is not going to be there for them. I used to attend synagogue every morning before COVID, and I got quite a lot out of that. It was a good communal thing to do. It got me up and out the house in the morning. And it sort of framed the day quite nicely. And obviously with COVID that stopped. The services are happening again, but I've chosen not to go back for the moment, and I can do what I did there at home. And the experience at home is quite different because it isn't, or at least until recently, hasn't been rushed. There has been no nobody leading prayers that you've got to keep up with. You do it at your own pace. You can read the prayers in English, which actually brings them to life in a way that you don't get with an organized service. And you also realize, or I did, that a lot of the words I've gabbled through, I've not been reading properly, I've not been pronouncing properly. So actually the experience of praying at home has been a lot richer. And I'm actually quite looking forward to this difference of pace over the high holidays. The services, if you do them yourself, are considerably shorter, because a big part of the festival liturgy is communal, and you can't do that if you're on your own. So you actually have the private prayers to do, and you focus on those. So you've got the time that you would be sat in synagogue at home, and I think it will be actually quite a rewarding experience. I'm not concerned at all about how this is going to impact on me. Obviously, for my kids, it's probably difficult for them not being involved with a congregation, but it's only, we hope, 1 year, so it should be all right.
So, if anything, it sounds like it's connected you more.
Well, you can pause, you can stop, you can say, "Oh, do you know, I've just read something interesting. Let's go and look up a bit of commentary on that. Let's, we have a reading in synagogue at the festival, so I can read it at my pace. I can read the commentators on that. I can actually get much more out of it than I would, were I sat in my seat with people, everybody chatting around me, which annoys me intensely. I go for a purpose, not to talk.
Yeah, it's a breath of fresh air hearing what you're saying, to be perfectly honest, because it's, if you listen to the majority of communities, religious communities, it's quite a different mantra, and it's really a breath of fresh air to hear what you're saying.
But I suppose if you're talking about somebody who has minimal connection and actually need that physical environment to conjure up the feeling of spirituality, then I can see that would be the case. Fortunately for me, I'm quite capable to gain those things on my own, and I have the self-discipline to do it. that's the other thing, you know, is very easy to say I'm not going to bother, but you actually need a discipline. You need to do it every day. You need to not miss things out because you want to. You've got to actually have that self-discipline to say, this is part of what I'm going to do, and you do it. You do it religiously. I mean, you know, the word tells you what it is.
And in fact, you were doing that over lockdown. You were religiously walking every day. You were doing Joe Wicks.
I was walking every morning. I was listening to podcasts, which I discovered, which were fantastic. My good friend in London, Jonathan Gabbai, started a podcast, and he's interviewed some really exciting people. So I've been listening to him. It's always nicer when you know the person who's doing the broadcast. But I also enjoyed Louis Theroux's podcast and lots of other really exciting stuff on there. And yeah, with my son, we were doing Joe Wicks every day, which was great. You know, really got me into good shape physically. At the moment, it's tough because there's other things. There's kids to get off to school. It's hard to fit in a walk every day, but you know, you try.
And the shinier things, I'm guessing.
Well, yeah, there is work that needs to be done.
What other on podcasts? Louis Theroux's brilliant. Are there any others that you mentioned a couple of others there, but are there any others that you'd recommend?
This Jonathan Gabbai series have been very good. There's a photography. She was a photography student when I was mentoring her. I'm going to have to look up what this one's called, because her and a friend are doing a podcast about being young creatives.
Okay.
Now then, let's see.
We want to talk about your photography anyway. So
shows. Here we go. So there's a lot on here, because again, I'm a bit of a magpie collecting podcasts which never get listened to. I quite like Giles Corran. Guru, that was interesting, about a sort of fake spiritual leader in America. And here, Smash and Bounce. Smash and Bounce is these two young ladies who've just started their creative career. That's quite interesting. Oh, and the other one is Peg and Phil's podcast. This is Peg Alexander, who's a well-known local journalist and face on TV. And she's got this podcast about the 80s and music in the 80s. And of course, she's talking about all the clubs I used to go to and all the bands I used to listen to. So that's really, really good. I'd recommend that one as well.
Oh, brilliant. In fact, John's just said the Reputation podcast featuring Jonathan due out on the 5th of October.
Oh, fantastic.
Great interview. So, and I'll make a note of Smash and Bounce as well. Thank you.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
So going to photography, when did you first consider yourself to be enjoying photography?
Well, I think I was 7, and I found an old Kodak Brownie, and I asked for a film to go in it, and I took some horrible pictures, which I've probably still got somewhere. And then on my 10th birthday, my late father took me to Dixon's and bought me a 35mm camera, and said, you can have one roll of black and white a month. And no more. And I took quite a few photos when I was a kid. And he had a dark room at home. He used to turn the bathroom into a dark room. So, you know, you were either in or out. You know, he said, I'm in the dark room, or, you know, do you want to come in or out? You've got to, because I can't open the door. So I'd go in, and he'd black out the window. He'd turn the bath into a table with a large piece of wood and put all these chemicals in baths and get the enlarger and expose paper and dodge and burn. And I, you know, as a child, I watched all this. It was fascinating. And I, you know, on and off took pictures for years. But then the business came along, and, you know, that really put paid to it. I used to art direct other photographers quite a lot, taking pictures of bins, but I didn't take many pictures myself. And then
that must have been fun, taking pictures of bins.
Well, I was credited with making something very boring quite sexy. So, you know, my pictures of bins were works of art. But when we decided to sell the business, I went out and bought a camera. And I can't explain the motivation, but we were going on holiday, and for some reason I went into Dale Photographic and dropped £1,000 on a camera. And I happened to buy the camera for street photographers, and I'd never even heard of street photography at that point. but I obviously, fate dictated that I'd bought the right tool for the job. And I took the camera on a walking tour of Jewish Huddersfield. Now, the thing about Jewish Huddersfield is there is no Jewish Huddersfield. There's nothing left.
I was just wondering.
So Nigel Grizzard, who did the tour, bless him, was like, well, what was here? So there was nothing to take pictures of, except one quite attractive cinema, which I did take a few shots of. So I got bored, and I started pointing the camera at the folk on the street in Huddersfield. And I felt quite guilty about this. But, I got home and there were some quite interesting pictures of people looking shocked or astonished or dismayed that I was taking a picture. And then I discovered that it actually existed as a genre. And then I discovered how to make my pictures look like the old black and whites my father used to take, with blacks and whites, sort of high contrast pictures. So suddenly I had a style, and I started posting stuff on Instagram, and people started following. So at what point do you become a photographer? I don't know. I had an audience. And I'd read, if you're interested in being a photographer, just take photographs, just do stuff, whatever anybody wants you to take pictures, just go and do it. Just do it. Take pictures. I used to take pictures, kids' parties, I'd take pictures of my kids' parties, as you do, but I'd try and do them a bit artistically. I'd take pictures, if a group had a speaker or something and wanted a photo taking, I'd go and do it. I had this meeting with the group from the London charity that raises money for Magen David Adom, which is the Israeli ambulance service. And as we were chatting, they looked at some of my work on Instagram, and they said, this is really, really interesting. We use lots of photographs to promote our charity, but they're all staged. And you can tell they're staged. You can tell they're staged. How about we put you in an ambulance and just see what happens? And I said, yeah, that's interesting. They said, we don't actually know we can get permission to do this, because it's actually quite an interesting question. Can you be, we can put you on an ambulance as a volunteer, but we don't know that you can take pictures. But as it happens, they got the permission, and I went and did a shift. Nothing exciting happened on that shift, but we attended a few incidents. We picked some people up, we took them to hospital, and I just took pictures of everything that happened, everything I saw, with the one caveat that I wasn't allowed to show the face of the patient.
Right.
Now, there's actually quite a good spot at the back of an ambulance behind the stretcher where you can see everything that's going on with the back of the patient's head. So that was my vantage point, other than the outdoor stuff. And I presented them with some of these pictures, and they said, we really like them. We want some blow-ups for the wall of our office. So there was a commission to do. And we were chatting about another project I was working on, which involved doing a book for a charity. That book's never happened. It might happen, might not. But they said, oh, can we have a book? And I said, well, yeah, you can have a book, but I need to take quite a bit more material. How about you set me up with a week of shifts, and I'll come out and we'll do it. So I spent a week in Israel. I timed it so that the first day of my visit coincided with Pride in Tel Aviv, which I'd always wanted to photograph, which was the most spectacular event, and probably more photographers than I've never seen so many photographers. There are a lot of photographers in Israel, and they are all very, very keen on this kind of thing. So we did Pride. I actually attended in an ambulance, which meant I could get from the park party to the beach party in the ambulance through all the roadblocks before anybody else got there, which was great. And then I did lots of shifts, and I did shifts in Jerusalem, in Tel Aviv, in an Arab city called Sakhnin up in the north. I was all over with all different crews, with Jewish crews, with Arab crews, with mixed crews, with religious crews, with secular crews, with every kind of demographic you can imagine. and the patients that we treated were equally from a diverse demographic. Everybody working harmoniously together, everybody with the shared mission of saving lives. And we did save lives, and sadly there were occasions we didn't save lives, but you know, it's part and parcel of what you let yourself in for when you go out on an ambulance. Now, my brief was to show the technological prowess of the organisation and the diversity. And I came back with thousands of pictures, and I thought, well, you know, I've got plenty of technology, but here's a photograph of a Jewish ambulance driver, and here's a photograph of an Arab ambulance driver, and if I hold them side by side, they look exactly the same. So how am I going to display the diversity? And then, quite fortuitously, I found a picture. They posted a picture on their Facebook page of the pharmacist graduation ceremony, or paramedics graduation. I think it was the paramedics graduation ceremony. And there was a girl in a hijab. And I thought, that's what I need. Can you find me somebody? So I went back for another week, and I met an amazing lady called Warud, who's a volunteer driver.
Right.
She's a Bedouin Arab. She's got 5 kids. I think she was 24 at the time.
Wow.
And she's covered from head to foot, and she drives an ambulance, and she's a celebrity because she's the first Bedouin woman in her community to have a job. Even, you know,
right.
these women were not previously allowed to have a job, and she drives an ambulance, and she lives in a town called Rahat, which most people, even if they're very familiar with Israel, will never have heard of. It's the biggest Bedouin town in the world.
Is it really?
It's in South Israel.
Right.
And it's an amazing place. And
wow.
she's an absolute celeb there. You know, people high-fiving her and wanting to selfies. Absolutely incredible. And as a result of my visit, MDA raised money to rebuild the ambulance station in Rahat, which was falling down. So
okay.
I put
quite
a book together for them.
Quite phenomenal then.
Yeah.
That came together.
The book, MDA's motto is blood, sweat and tears. So I called the book Blood, Sweat, Tears and Helicopters. So blood was about the blood unit and collecting blood, which MDA also runs the blood service in Israel. They're just building a new unit, mainly underground, which is quite interesting, a whole hospital sort of below ground. The sweat was the preparing the ambulance or the cleaning the ambulances after the patient's been dealt with. You know, there's a whole preparatory thing. They have to check the oxygen. They have to go and get more oxygen. If it's empty, they have to check all the drugs and the supplies and make sure everything's ready before they go out on shift. And the tears were actually dealing with the patients, you know, attending to them, treating them at home, taking them to hospital, whatever it needed. And the helicopters was the MDA helicopter, which I photographed right up in the north near the Sea of Galilee. And, you know, it's quite a small thing when you get close up to a helicopter. But they had a crew and I photographed them in it. And so that was a great success. They gave this book to their big donors, and it now appears on Amazon as a collector's item, which is quite fun for me.
It's brilliant.
Because there aren't any left. And we're redoing it. We're reprinting it with more. We're doing a sort of enlarged edition for their 90th anniversary.
I was about to say they loved it so much that they want to do it again, don't they?
So 20 more images in it, and some other themes being explored, like diversity, like their cooperation with the Jordanian Red Crescent. And hopefully the head of the Jordanian Red Crescent is going to write the preface to the book.
Which is just unbelievable.
Thing,
yeah,
you know, that you've got this massive cooperation between two members, the Red Crescent and the Red. Internationally, Israel is the Red Diamond, but there is the Red Star of David, which they use within the borders of the state of Israel.
And the fact that this guy's going to be writing something for them is just phenomenal.
He's a big friend,
right?
And was very helpful in having MDA admitted to the International Red Cross. So there is big cooperation going on, between the two ambulance services.
And topically, with the UAE and Israel deal, what you've seen is that this is only a fabulous thing, really. And why wouldn't you? Is that right?
There is no animosity between Jews and Arabs on the ground. I mean, I've seen crews working together. The friendship, and I'm thinking of particularly one Palestinian Arab who works on the Jerusalem team, who took me to show me the Arab market, and is proudly wearing his MDA uniform and is everybody's friend. And these people live side by side, and you've just got so much politics in the way of everybody. There is a deal to do, but if you have to have both sides recognize each other, and at the moment I don't see that one side recognize, the official Palestinian line, I don't think at the moment recognizes that a Jewish state exists, and once they're over that, everything falls into place. And it's like with the UAE, the barrier was, our Palestinian brothers are suffering and we're not going to side with the enemy. I think they finally realized, actually, there's more to be gained by being friends than falling out with people who are, making things difficult and are perhaps not genuine about wanting to settle this at the moment. And I think you will see now a sea of Arab countries making peace, normalizing relations. This is different because Jordan and Egypt made peace. The UAE is normalized. Completely different. There will be tourists coming and going. At the moment, you don't really see that. As a foreign visitor to Israel, you can cross into Jordan. I think it's slightly harder if you're an Israeli citizen. Not 100% sure, but I don't think there's the same sort of love between the countries. These two countries are embracing each other and are cooperating and are actually working together for the common good. And I think we'll see more of it. And it's amazing, amazing to see, and to watch an El Al plane landing in the Emirates. It's just just the kind of thing you never thought you'd see in your lifetime, and you watch it happening, and hopefully it's a herald of better things. And
I think that's a good picture, actually, an LL plane landing in Emirates.
And it's the near neighbours that such as I have photography fans in Lebanon, in Syria, in Iran. I remember being up in Akko in the north of Israel, and texting my friend in Beirut. you know how close we are together, but there's no way that either of us could visit each other. And what a tragedy! What a shame!
Yeah.
And it doesn't take much to have the mindset to say, actually, you know what, we can live and let live, and it benefits everybody.
Absolutely. You your photography, you've also got a huge love for food. You're a vegan. I don't believe you're a vegan, actually, because most vegans that I know preach about being vegans. I don't find you do that at all. You actually just enjoy being a vegan.
Well, not everybody in this house is a vegan, so I've got to temper myself. I also don't have any tattoos and I don't have any piercings, which must be quite unusual for vegans. And I'm slightly right of centre, which is extremely unusual for vegans. And I'm a Brexiteer. I'm probably the only vegan Brexiteer on the planet. But I have just published in the last few days Vegans in Iceland, which is my latest photo book.
This was following a trip you made last year to Iceland, is that right?
Yeah, I spent a week in Iceland in the summer, and quite interesting to be there in the summer because it doesn't really get dark, or only for a very short time. You'll come out of a pub at 11:30 at night, and it's light, like broad daylight, not even looking like it's about to get dark. and I met some amazing people, all of whom were vegans, and I interviewed them and photographed them, and I've put together a book. I think there are 21 portraits in it, and then there's a whole lot of other stuff, which was iPhone pictures taken of food in supermarkets and signs offering vegan food in restaurants and packets of vegan food I saw around in and around Iceland. The premise to start the book was, are there any vegans in Iceland? I'm not sure there are. I wanted to go to Reykjavik to do some street photography. I'd read a lot about Iceland. I'd read some literature written by Icelandic people, and I thought Reykjavik is probably a good place to do what I do. You know, each year I try and sneak off somewhere for a few days to do a bit of street photography on my own. I was in Ibiza in 2017. I was in Tangiers in 2018. So I thought I'd go to Reykjavik in 2019. And I was worried about whether there'd be any vegan food, because you think of Iceland that's isolated, you think people eat whales. Actually, they don't. They catch whales for other people who eat whales. And I found a lady on a Facebook site called Vegan Travelers to Iceland. And I said,
quite a niche site.
To take some photographs. Do you think I'll starve? And she sent me a 30-page PDF of every restaurant in Iceland that offers anything vegan, and there's quite a lot of it.
Oh wow.
And she said, if you're coming, you can photograph us. We do the Cube of Truth in Reykjavik every Sunday. And I said, what's the Cube of Truth? You know, some vegan I am. So the Cube of Truth is where they put the Guy Fawkes mask on and they stand with a flat screen which shows slaughterhouse footage and animal abuse, and they try and engage with people and encourage them to be vegan. I said, great, yeah, you know, I do that, but is there anything else or anyone else you think I could photograph when I come? And I get this list of people. She says, well, we have this transgender vegan baker. We have a DJ who's also a local politician, and she runs a feminist music organization, and so on. So I thought, oh, this is amazing. You know, all these people, these characters. Perhaps there's a project here. Then I found more vegans. I found vegans, so many vegans in Iceland, all in different walks of life, all coming to veganism from different angles. And then when I got there, I met even more vegans. I met a vegan sex worker. I mean, this was surreal. I said, and what do you do? She said, oh, I'm a sex worker. Would you like to be in my book? So you'll have to buy the book to see the picture of her in her suspenders. But,
well, I mean, some of your pictures are just amazing, and all of your pictures are amazing. I apologize, and I've just dropped the link for your Instagram, which is Straight Pics. But you mentioned it earlier because it amazes me at some of the expressions that you capture, and some of the sort of aghast. What is that the case that they're sort of, you know, what the hell are you doing taking a picture of me? And what's the deal with street photography? Are you able to just take pictures and use them, and what's the deal there?
Well, I suppose it depends where in the world you are, to be honest. But in the UK, so to go back to the first part of your question, either the person has no idea I'm taking the photograph, or they're a bit curious, and you get a bit of eye contact. That for me is the best, because they're not posing; they're just looking puzzled. You know, is he? Isn't he? What? You know, what's going on here? And often they'll come up and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, love. Did I get in your way?"
And you're like, "No, that was the best picture that could have got."
Don't worry about it. And I've got ways of actually getting, like, you know, within 2 or 3 feet of somebody, and I'm having no clue what I'm doing, which is really fun. When you're literally poking the camera in somebody's face and they don't know you're taking a picture of them. But it's like being an illusionist. You know, you there are ways to make people think you're not doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And then sometimes they will notice, and they might be indifferent. They might play to the camera, or they might really kick off. And about once a year, somebody does kick off and I end up having to delete the picture, which clearly I do. Now, if you take a picture of somebody in the public arena and they're not somebody known or famous, and you're not using it for commercial purposes, you can do what you want with that image. It's free to use. I think it's slightly different in Germany. I think in Germany you're not allowed.
So if you want to use them in a book, do you then need to get permission?
No, because it's art.
Ah.
I mean, you look at all the stuff Martin Parr does. I think I asked him. He came to the Hepworth, and I said, "Do you get permission?" He said, "Well, you can't because you don't. The moment's been and gone." But it's art, so you're allowed.
If people want to buy this book, is it vegansinisland.com? Is that the best place to go?
Yeah.
Or
I have my own sort of book publishing name now, which is called Art Books, which is ARTBUKZ. So there's artbooks.com, but if you go to vegansinisland.com, you'll find the book. And if you use the code SAVE10, SAVE 0, SAVE10, you'll get £10 off.
Brilliant. I'll just pop those. So artbooks, ARTBUKZ.com, and save 10 gives you 10% off.
£10 off, not 10%.
Sorry, £10 off. Wow.
£10 off, yeah.
Amazing. I'm conscious
of free shipping in the UK. but not to Iceland. we have to charge the Icelandic community, I'm afraid.
I'm conscious of time, and I could chat to you for days. I mean, it's fascinating, the conversations we always have, and you're in so many things. I've got some really quick fire questions for you. Things that I wanted to cover that I didn't have a chance. You mentioned when you're doing the TV stuff, you've got to learn your lines. I mean, I would be crap at learning lines. How the hell do you learn lines?
Well, when I was in my late teens, I started doing a bit of amateur drama, which involves learning a lot of lines. And I was pretty good. I used to learn everybody else's lines as well. And there was an occasion, quite famously, I corrected the direction of a play which had been sent off at a tangent by somebody giving the wrong line out. I actually managed to steer it back. And then I did a bit more I suppose I must have been in my 30s, and I found it much harder to learn the lines because your brain obviously deteriorates a bit. But I don't know, you just have to be methodical about it. And the thing with TV is you don't need much recall because you're only filming a minute or two, usually only filming a minute or two at a time. So you'll read the couple of paragraphs. If you get the odd word wrong, it doesn't matter because you've written it anyway. But you'll learn it, and then you'll read the paragraph you need to recite just before you do it, and then it's fresh in your mind, and then you don't need to remember it ever again, really.
Off the top of your head, you're, because of COVID, you're not really going out to restaurants right now. Understandably, one of the big things that you're missing, though, where are when you do get to go out, where are the restaurants you're going to be heading towards? Which are the ones you'd be recommending in Leeds and in London?
Well, of course, you have to remember I am at home, so I'm having home cooked meals, and I have been doing quite a bit of cooking. I've got a lovely homemade pita bread recipe, which is vegan yogurt and flour and a bit of baking powder. I've made vegan falafel, which is fun. So I've been doing lots of cooking.
You've also got you've also got another ingredient that you use, lupin, that you like a lot.
Australian lupin, which is high protein, high fiber, low carb. If you go to thelupincompany.com, you can find out all about lupin, and it's 3 for 2 on Amazon at the minute as well. So right. If you want to get some lupin down you, I make a lovely walnut and mushroom pate with lupin. There's
nice
on the website. Tastes like chopped liver, but it isn't.
Wow.
Well, from what I remember, probably 40 years since I last ate. Anyway, where would I like to go in Leeds? Donna's Summer, which is a vegan kebab place. I'm quite excited about that. I'd like to go to JJ's vegan fish and chip place again. That was one of my favourites. I like the large battered sausage. there, even though it was stone cold by the time I got it home. What else? There's lots of places coming. Lots of things opening. It's exciting. And in London, oh God, there's just so much going on there. I mean,
where can't you wait? Where can't you wait to go back to?
Oh, there was a little place we went called Bubbelers, which is grandmother in Yiddish, and it's a sort of modern Israeli vegetarian, but a lot of it's vegan. So it's like grilled aubergines and hummus and fennel, roasted fennel, this kind of thing. Just vegetables, but delicious. Very, very nice place. Tiny place. I don't know how the hell they're socially distancing in there. But, I mean, you didn't matter whose table you were sat at. You were with them.
You were with them.
You were with everybody anyway.
The other topics I wanted to talk about, there's no chance we're going to get quick answers, but my concerns are for places like the Tetley and some of those. I mean, could you just give us a really short answer on how are they going to get through this Corona period, and how can we support places like that?
Okay, so the Tetley art gallery, bar, restaurant, it's open again. It was shut for some time. Fortunately, many of the staff were able to be furloughed, so that took a big burden off. And the Tetley received support as a national portfolio organisation from the Arts Council. It received a significant grant from the Arts Council, and hopefully next month we'll get another grant from the Arts Council, because the Tetley depends on events. The Tetley is an event space, and the events make the money. And without events, there is a bar and restaurant there, but it doesn't make enough money to sustain the Tetley. So hopefully we'll get more support from the Arts Council during this time that we can't run events. Now, everybody who's booked an event pretty much has postponed the event. They haven't cancelled it.
Yep.
I actually have a family event booked at the Tetley. Was going to happen in May. It's been postponed till next May. It may have to be postponed again, but I haven't cancelled the booking. I've just moved it. So the Tetley is okay at the moment, but to support it, go to the bar, go to the restaurant if you're feeling brave. Now, they have outdoor dining, and the other thing is there's a lot of space in the Tetley, so it's genuinely socially distanced. And
there is.
Staff are wearing masks. It's done properly.
It's an airy space.
No time for restaurants that are not following the rules. Or staff who aren't masked up. This is done properly. There will be very soon a takeaway service from the Tetley. I think it'll be on Deliveroo, and it'll probably be available direct as well. And it might have some quite interesting drink selections. So that's coming, and that's also a great way to support the Tetley. And what people need to know is that every penny spent at the Tetley supports the arts directly, because the Tetley is a charity, and the trading arm is part of the charity. So while we can't run events, please buy meals, get them delivered, and visit. The gallery's open. You can book to visit. You have to book to visit. And we've got a good programme and a good emerging programme for later in the year.
Thank you very, very much, Jonathan. It's been a fascinating conversation.
It's a pleasure. So I've got no voice.
Which is why I think we need to come to an end, because I could just chat and chat. And it's absolutely fascinating. And there's just so many different things that we could talk about. I wish you a huge Shana Tova for this weekend.
Shana Tova, and Happy New Year.
And Happy New Year to you. And thank you so much. Jonathan, if people wanted to connect with you or find you online, where's the best place for them to go?
So I'm on LinkedIn, Jonathan Straight. I'm on Twitter, Planet Straight. I'm on Instagram, Straight Pics. I'm on Facebook. So find me, connect with me. I'm open to any approach, any conversation. Don't be shy.
Anything shiny and new and exciting.
Oh, shinier the better.
Jonathan's up for a chat.
Absolutely.
Great.
Nice to talk to you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for watching, everyone. Make sure that you subscribe on YouTube or join the Facebook group, Coronavirus Yorkshire Business Support Group, for the next live. There's plenty more coming, and look forward to seeing you all soon. Take care. See you all soon.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Johnny Ross audio experience. Thanks so much for joining me. If you want to continue the conversation, head over to my website, fleek.marketing, or find me on LinkedIn. That's all for today. Please subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, tag me in your social media posts, and please leave me a review on iTunes. It will make a huge difference for me. I will see you soon.